Here. What's up, Warrior? Welcome back. We're going through the top mistakes that sales leaders make that kill their businesses. Today, we're going to go through mistake number 4, which is viewing relationships as transactional. So, we're going to talk about how to solve this and how to make sure that you grow an impactful business that'll lead you to more income as well. So, if that sounds like something interesting to you, be sure to like this and consider sharing this as well with someone that needs this. So, um, when I got started in business, I completely made this mistake. I remember I was so excited that all I wanted to do was only talk to people that I could do business with, and I took it really overboard because I really wanted to make sure that in this season that I could run hard, I could be successful, and then later on I'd get back to my relationships, right? So I literally cut off my relationships with my family. I stopped talking to my friends that could not do business with me. And at first I thought it was a good thing, but I realized that not only did it lead me to a lot of pain personally because it hurt my personal relationships, but actually even within my business, my clients could feel that I was all only about business. My teammates could feel that I was only about business. And it was to the point that I remember one of my top leaders approached me after a meeting one day, and he was like, "James, you're cool, but you're just cold. You're not fun." And that made me realize that I was doing it all wrong. So warriors love people first, and then the business comes secondary. And we can learn about this. I've been studying through who I believe is one of the best warriors in history. Now, when I ask you about a warrior, who comes to mind? Like, drop some names in the chat. You might think about some military leader. You might think about some person in the past, maybe some mythological person. Maybe I think about like Hercules or any of these like Roman or Greek types of military leaders. But I'd submit to you that one of the greatest leaders and warriors in the world was a guy named David. Now, David, he's a biblical character, but also historical as well too. One of the wealthiest people in the world. He was able to expand the territory of the people he was leading at the time to the greatest it's ever been. So, King David, right? And Alexander the Great, fantastic as well too. Um, I've been studying a lot through King David's life. And here's an interesting story that I believe can teach us how to view relationships well. It's a tale of two cities. Before David came another king named King Saul. King Saul was transactional with his relationships. King David actually loved people. It says in the Bible that he was a man after God's own heart, and God's heart is loving people. So it was regular. You would see in King David's life that he would care for even Saul, the king's son. They were like brothers, Jonathan. He would care for his people. He was not there only to handle business. He was not there only to accomplish the mission, but he cared about people first. King Saul, though, did not. King Saul was the king, but then he let the mission and his goals and his business, so to speak, get to his head, and he cut down relationships to the point that David, who was Saul's one of Saul's closest people, basically a son-in-law, he tried to kill his own son-in-law because he was scared that he would take the throne. Now, I'm pretty sure we can all agree that that's not a good philosophy to have in your life, and especially not in your business leadership. But before we judge, as I think to myself, there's been many times that I might do that as well too. So let's take a note from what King David did, and how we can apply this philosophy into our businesses, into our leadership, so that we can be the warriors that we were all designed to be. So I have a couple of tips here that I feel can be practical for this, and let me know if any of this makes sense at all. But number one is this. Number one is to daily connect with your people with the pure motive just to love on them. And what does that mean? Let's say it's your teammates. There's many things that we need to do as business leaders. There's sales goals, there's announcements, there's things that need to get done. But why not take just a little bit of time and don't skip over the how are you? Like, really, how are you? I was talking to one of my mentors, and he leads a huge sales team in the solar industry. And he told me that what he does with his people is he'll ask you, how are you? Most of the time, people say, I'm doing good. How are you? Right? It's just very like small talk. And what he'll do is he'll actually ask a second time, how are you? And then the second time, how are you really? And so many times, if we just take that little bit of time just to actually ask people how they're doing, you'd be so surprised. They're going to open up to you. They're going to share and bare their heart. They're going to talk to you about what's actually going on. And when people know that you care, then they care about what you know, is the saying. So with your teammates, are you actually taking some time? Doesn't have to be a long time, but just some time to actually care about their life, their family, their kids. Do you know their kids? Do you know their family? Do you know what do you know their spouse's name, right? Do we actually care about these details? It matters because we're all, regardless of what industry you're in, we're all in the people business. Right? How about your clients? Do the same thing with them as well too, right? Love on them to another level. It's not just once they've made the sale that it's done. If you want a residual customer, if you want a loyal customer, if you want raving fans that refer you people, I'm sure we all want that. People become raving fans when they feel like they're seen and heard. So are you taking some time to also get to know them as well too? And last thing to submit in this first point is, how about even your prospects? Let's say they didn't buy from you yet. You know, one of the most powerful follow-up tools that I've found that works is this, is of course we have to follow up on the conversation. Of course, we have to follow up if there's any objections or questions they have about your offer. But you know, many times the best follow-up is follow up on the relationship. Get to know them. That's why a lot of business deals are done on the golf course, because you're just connecting, you're just befriending someone, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, we like each other. Let's go do business with each other, right? People like to buy from people that they know, they like, and they trust. If you're still with me on this, put a 1 in the comments below. I know that King David would do something similar as well too in this note. Number 2, another way that we can go from being transactional in relationships to actually loving people. And what that is give free value with no expectation of return. There is a law of sowing and reaping. There is a law of generosity. God's wired it into his universe that when you give, then it says in the Bible that it comes back pressed down, shaken, and running over. Like there's these aspects, but you must give generously. I think about in the business world, if you want to grow a big following, then there's a direct correlation between how much free value you can give to people before you ask for a sale. Alex Hermosi, some of you might follow him. He recently has become a social media, I guess, guru, and he's teaching a lot about business. For the first many years of his career, his slogan was, I have nothing to sell you. Now he sells stuff, but he withheld the sale for a longer amount of time and he would just give free game. And sometimes as business leaders, we think that we need to hold in and hoard in all of our stuff, all of our trade secrets, because we want to charge for it, or we don't want the secret to get out. We don't want our competition to be able to get this. But what I've found more than often is that when you're generous, when you pour into other people, when you give value that's so good that people are saying to themselves, I can't believe you're giving that for free. That's when people actually start wanting to buy from you. Think about this. How awesome would it be if someone actually comes up to you and they're like, "Can you just charge me something? Like, you've changed my life. How about that?" So, what are some things that that you can give to other people? Maybe that's some samples of products sometimes. Maybe that's some type of an aspect of what you do in your business. Maybe that's free coaching. Maybe that's some type of resource that you can give to somebody. Just think, what's something that I can give to them with no expectation in return because I just want to give it to you. I just want to help you, right? Like if you do it this way, you're going to see how you're going to build some really genuine relationships. I mean, people naturally want people people like people that give them stuff, right? Try to be mean to someone that gives you a gift. Super powerful. So number 2, find a way to give free value with no expectation in return. Put a 2 in the comments if you're still with me on this. I hope this is helpful. Okay. Final thing on how to turn your relationships from being purely transactional to just loving people and having business follow. Number 3, I highly recommend this. You might think that this point it doesn't really have anything to do with business, but it has a lot to do with business. Number 3 is this. Stay in touch with your family and friends. Stay in touch with the people that might have nothing to do with your business at all. This was one of my biggest mistakes. I thought that I had to go in my own hole and cut myself off from my family. Literally, like I neglected my parents for many, many years because I had this lie in my mind that I had to make my success and then get back to them later. And I was shooting myself in the foot. I don't know if you've ever experienced this before. I thought, what's the point? Like, I haven't made anything of myself yet. They're not going to do anything for me on a business standpoint, or so I thought. But what I realized is this: how we do anything is how we do everything, is a saying. And if we don't even love the people closest to us, if we don't prioritize that above anything, that seeps and it drains your spirit. It kills, it sucks away your soul because the whole reason why most of us are doing business is we want to provide a better life for our friends and family. We're doing it for our loved ones. So why can't it be that we love our family now and we can still do our business? I think it's a scarcity mindset. I had to challenge that for myself. And what I found was that when I actually did prioritize my family, when I actually did take the time and call my mom and tell her I love her, when I did take the time to send a little voice note to my friends and just say, hey, I appreciate you. These little things. Number one, it helped me feel better. It helped empower me because I'm like, man, I love them and I love what I do. It reminds me of my why. But number two, what it also does is it empowers your support staff. I'm sure we can all agree business is tough. That's why I label it warriors, because business is like war. Like there's good times and there's a lot of bad times. So have when you want all the support that you can get. And if you have family members, friends that just love you no matter what it is that you produce, we all need that support. You're going to need them. I've had tough times in my business. In 13 years of online business sales, I've had some really dark times, but you know who's there? My friends and my family. If I didn't have them, I would not be here today. And finally, when you actually do love your friends and family, the reality is this is strong business comes from strong relationships. So many times your family and friends will actually be your supporters, not just in support, but they'll refer. They might buy, they might join, but really they're the ones that are going to be your number one fans because they're your family or your friends if you invest into them. So don't invest into them because you want anything business. Invest into them because they're your family and your friends. So be relational, love people, business will follow. Don't make the mistake that so many of us do of viewing relationships as only transactional, and take it from the greatest warrior of them all, King David, that he loved people first. And after that happened, it led him to the greatest victories. It led him to the greatest successes and everything. All right. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, leave in the comments below what impacted you. What's something that's going through your mind? What kind of an action step could you take from this? I love that we can co-labor in this. And if you like this type of content, consider subscribing to the Warrior Movement podcast. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. I drop this plus a lot of other cool content as well too. Consider sharing this with somebody that you feel this can benefit. Other than that, God bless.